Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. It's 9:30 p.m., so it must be time for JHS interviews. This is John Henry Soto. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to thank everyone in the past for all the support and everything that I've received. The messages have been really, really awesome. So thank you all so much. Oh, I am excited because we have someone that I met. It feels like I met them 20 years ago, but literally it's maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Carlease Burke. Yay!
Everybody. Hey, John.
Actor,
Hello.
producer, and activist. And just it's so great to meet you. It is true, like the two conversations, I think, what, two or three conversations that we've had on the phone
Yeah.
for me have been like I've known you for so long. It was really interesting. So I definitely want to thank you for being here. We got a lot to cover.
We have to
um
thank Dave 100 Watts
I,
Watson.
I was definitely gonna bring that up. I was definitely gonna talk about Dave. Yeah, I wanted to go into that, actually, the relationship and where you know him from and all that. But
Okay.
yes, so Dave Watson was my guest on the show a couple of weeks ago. And he's a great guest, and apparently he was talking to you about it, and you guys spoke about the show, and you saw the show. You
Yeah.
had messaged me, which was funny.
Yeah.
And I didn't put two and two together till later, when after you messaged me. I was like, oh wait, Dave, Doc,
Yeah. Right.
and
Right. Doc.
yeah, Doc, yeah. And
Doc.
Doc called me. He said, I have the best guest that you're ever gonna have.
Oh.
And he just complete, and I was like, well, then bring it, let's do it, because it's one of those things where you can always take a reference from somebody like Dave, or somebody like yourself, you really trust.
Got the noise. Car. Did you hear
uh,
that? Maybe you didn't hear it. I got my
I
window
heard
down.
something.
The car just went. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, so Dave, really thank you to Dave Watson, Doc, and for bringing you here. I really appreciate you. Now, I looked at your IMDb, and I'm like, what in the what? Wow. I mean,
It just means I'm
very, very.
old. It just means I'm old. That's all.
It's so impressive. I mean,
Thank
I was like, wow, that was just it's so great. So, let's go back a little bit. Where you're originally from, New York,
Yes.
right? And I'll give a little bit. I know that apparently your dentist said you should be in show business up in
Um,
Hollis, Queens. Was that right?
Hollis, Queens. No, actually, there were two mentors that I had growing up. Actually, I wasn't child. Okay, let me start all over. The dentist was my childhood dentist. He didn't necessarily say you should be in show business. That was another mentor, which I'll talk about in a second. But I would go to my dentist, and people like dentists and hairstylists and bartenders are kind of like therapists because they get to hear all of your stuff, whatever's going on in your life. You tend to share it with them, and it's not a lot when you're at the dentist's office because they've got your mouth open in their hands, messing with your teeth.
Right.
But we had known each other for so long, and he was my childhood dentist that when I went back to him as a young adult, or maybe I was even in my 20s, I was talking to him about my life. He would say, well, what's going on with your life? And you graduate from school, and what are you majoring in? And la, 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 la. And I told him I wanted to be an actress. But my mother, who had also been his patient, she just wasn't supportive. And I was just so sad about that because it's what I really wanted to do. But I had no encouragement or support from home and no other role models. And so I was like, well, what do I do, Dr. Simpson? This is my dream. This is what I want to do. So he said, I have somebody I'd like you to meet. And so he introduced me he dated this woman in college who had a daughter, and she was doing very well in show business. She was from California, and he wanted me to meet her. And at the time of this conversation, this young lady, my age, was on Broadway, was doing a show on Broadway. So, and I was in Hollis, Queens, so I went to meet with her and we became friends. And she was actually the first person whose home I lived in when I moved to California. It wasn't a long time, but I lived there for about 4 months. So she gave me a roof over my head to kind of get me started out here in California.
Wow.
So the person who said you should go into show business was someone who I had done a play with, and she directed me in this play. Sandra Reeves Phillips is her name, and so we became close. And they call her Mama Phillips or Mama Sandra or something. I don't know, but she has that very nurturing kind of quality about her. So I was in a play, a musical called Raisin, based on Raisin in the Sun, and she was the director. And again, I was telling her, I was there because I wanted to act and I wanted to be in show business and earn a living and make this my career. And so after the play, or maybe during the play or at some time, she said, if you don't pursue this, you're crazy. I encourage you to do this. So those two things was all I needed, and I was like, okay, show me how, to them, to God, to whoever would listen. What do I do now?
Wow. It's so important when a young artist has a dream to be surrounded by somebody that's nurturing. And sometimes family, they don't necessarily understand that this can happen. It's
right.
Because it seems so, you watch on TV, it's like another planet, and growing up for me in the Bronx, it wasn't like a thing where, okay, like I'm a musician, right? And that's what I want, that's what I wanted to do. And my grandmother was supportive. I was raised by my grandparents, supportive, but at the same time, she always was like, she really wanted me to be an accountant. That was like her dream. For some reason, an accountant was like a big deal, something like not a doctor, not a lawyer, but an accountant.
That's how I felt. My mom was a teacher. That's
okay.
She wanted me to be
a So, for me, it was an interesting thing, but I mean, she was supportive enough where she allowed me to do it. But I really sympathize with those that don't have that support. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's such a challenging thing for artists, especially when they're young and they can be shattered so easily because you're so fragile at that point when you're just really taking that first step in that direction.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? You obviously had some mentors in place, which was great. Was there ever a time where you decided, you know what, maybe they're right?
The mentor?
The parents?
Not in the beginning of my journey. I thought I had gotten past that, but much later in my life, after I had moved to California as an adult, I had graduated from college. I had done everything that they wanted me to do. I was pursuing my career out here slowly but surely, but I was in no hurry because I felt I'm here for the long haul. This is what I've always wanted to do. I had no mentors here in California. I had no help, but things happened. Fortunately, things happened, and I kept getting signs that I was in the right place. Even though I had the survivor jobs, I worked in temp offices, I sold, products or gave product demonstrations in malls. I did all kinds of stuff to pay the bills, but acting was always there. There was always an opportunity for me to do something. And then all of a sudden, my mom says something to me one day about, and I thought things were going well, right? It was, I was happy. Taking myself, had a roof over my head, a car, food, everything that you needed to survive. So I thought I wasn't rich, and I knew that there was more that I wanted to do, but things were happening. I had a company of peers that was doing what I was doing, and we were out here acting. So all of a sudden, my mom says to me, you really need to have a plan B in case this acting business doesn't work out.
Plan B.
I was doing stand-up comedy. And I was doing a lot of music festivals and gay and lesbian festivals. For some reason, that all coincided in my life at once. I don't know why, but I was
Right.
doing music festivals, gay and lesbian festivals, and stand-up comedy as a stand-up comedian and an MC and a host. And so my mom dropped this bomb about you need to have a plan B, and I was like, a plan B? Like, what would a plan B be? Because
Right.
I'm doing what I want to do, and it just never occurred to me, like, well, you have to have something to fall back on. But I was doing what I wanted, so it didn't feel like I was failing in any way.
Right.
So doing these festivals, there was always a sign language interpreter on stage at all of these festivals that I had been hired to do. And I said, okay, well, that looks like fun. And they were like performing, when there was music, they were very expressive, and they were signing with the comedy, they were funny, and they were always able to match the energy of the performer. And I was like, okay, well, that looks cool. And I've always been interested in languages. So I took a class in sign language interpreting. I was like, well, let's see what happens. And then I loved it so much and I did so well that I ended up getting a sign language interpreting degree. Like, I had already had a BA in pre-law from New York years ago, but now here I am getting an associate's degree in sign language interpreting, which was not in the plan at all. But I guess to answer your question, I thought maybe, what if my mom is right? And I never stopped performing, and I was hurt. I was really, really hurt by it because while I was doing the sign language, I was in school and I got an opportunity to possibly recur on, I think it was NYPD Blue. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was NYPD Blue. And for me, recurring was huge. And they were like, yeah, we'll probably use you for 5 more episodes. And I was like, oh, I mean, to me at that point, it was like, that was making it. I'm like, what? Oh my God, they love me and I'm going to work in la la. So I told my mom and I said, I think I'm going to drop out of, I was studying sign language. I think I'm going to drop out for a semester because there's an opportunity that I could be on this show for 5 episodes. And I didn't want to have to take off from school and, blah, 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 blah. So she said, really? So now what am I supposed to tell people? And I was crushed.
Wow.
I mean, I was completely like, wow, like you don't get it at all. You just, and I mean, believe me, I went to therapy. I did a lot of work on forgiveness and understanding and, anger and all that kind of stuff. But I was crushed because I was excited. I mean, this was my shot. This was my moment. This was when my mom was finally going to say, "I'm proud of you." Wow, really? That's great. Oh, okay. But that's not what happened, So I thought she was wrong. I adjusted, my life differently. But in the end, it always came back to acting. No matter what was happening in my life, people say you need a plan B to fall back on. But anytime anything else failed, my acting career was always there. It always worked out. It was just, I always have had opportunities to act.
Wow. Well, congratulations on being able to get through that, because there's so many people that just aren't able to really see beyond that comment. And because this is someone that raised you, someone that, and to their defense, if I have to defend, like my grandparents or my grandma mainly, it's just unreal. It's just not a real thing for them. There's nothing tangible to it because they've never seen anyone actually do it.
Right.
So,
and then they know what they see on television and what they hear in the media and what they've read and the horror stories about it. People really don't understand the work and the commitment and the intelligence that you need to have to make it in this business. They all see the end result. which looks like
Right.
so much fun. And then they hear about all the money that you can make if you're rich, if you're A-list. But then there's a whole nother category of working actors or working musicians or working artists that can make a living.
Mhm.
My mother was always like, you need to, graduate from college and get a job so you can have benefits. I have benefits as an actor.
Right.
Benefits. I've earned a pension.
Yeah.
So, but they don't understand that. It
Yeah.
was civil, and I'm from New York. I'm from obviously Hollis, Queens, and then,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you've heard this, but it was always like get a civil servant, what is it, civil service job,
Civil service job. Yeah.
like
A
that.
great benefit.
Yeah, that was it. That's what you did. Civil, post office, police officer, but civil service was the word that my mom always used. So you can have some benefits. And at that time, they believed that you could never be fired. It wasn't maybe the government jobs you could never be
Right.
fired from. Well, that's
Right.
all changed now, obviously. But
Yeah.
at that time, it was all about security, and I get it. That was that
Right.
generation.
Right.
That's all they knew.
Yeah. Yeah. Security was definitely part of that generation, and even education, is was so enforced and pushed on. Not everyone wants to go to college or needs to go to college.
Exactly.
It's like we do need people to do other jobs that they might actually really want to do.
Right.
So it's challenging. Well, let's talk about positivity stuff. So
Hopefully
you did
that's
it.
positive, because what that has
Yeah.
caused me to do is whenever I see an opportunity to encourage someone that had the experiences that I had, I really step up.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of people, I've mentored people, mostly young people, students, people that have just come here from other states that are coming to Hollywood and they have no idea what to do, graduate students of drama, all of that. I mentor people, and I always take some time to try to help guide someone if they have a question about this, because I actually have a small business called Ask a Stage Goddess. And I will work with the person. I'll talk to anybody and just find out where they are and where they want to go. And if they have a question, I'll answer the question. But then I also have a program where I will help guide you, point you in the right direction. Or if you really want to work for, say, a month and make a goal and achieve a goal, we can do that as well. And I started that based on how I don't ever want anybody to feel like I did, like there's nowhere to go to, and that you have to do this by yourself. Because I kind
Yeah.
of did a lot,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be there for someone else who needs someone.
Right. And this industry is sort of like just show business in general. I think it is sort of like a lonely, even though you have mentors and supporters, when the camera goes on, it's just you.
Yeah.
It's really they can't be there holding your hand, and a lot of again, they don't understand the work, like you mentioned earlier, when you're sitting quietly in a room studying a script and trying to get this character and trying to understand what you're going to portray the next day, where
Yeah.
you got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be on set at 5 a.m. to be on set. You know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah.
people don't really see that, like what and that really is the part of the job that I think a lot of people that do get a break in and actually get a taste of that, they might not like that. It's because it's not you
Exactly.
suddenly get the job and now you're on the red carpet and now you're at glitzy parties. That's not reality.
And the red
That's not.
carpet is a lot of work too. The red
Yeah.
carpet, I mean, it looks like it's fun, but the red carpet, everything preparing up to it, and then
Oh,
the actual thing, you are exhausted
gotta
at the
be.
end
It's
of the
gotta
night,
be.
or at the end of the campaign, if you've been, campaigning for an Oscar or a movie, or not so much a TV show, but a movie, these long
Right.
campaigns where you have to show up and you have to get and the cost, which is all on
Right.
you, not the studio, not the producers, but you have to buy your clothes, or sometimes you will be lent clothes, but you have the makeup artist, the hairstylist, the wardrobe. It's a lot of work. A year
Right.
ago, literally 1 year ago, I was doing it for Child's Play.
Mm.
And I was thinking like, wow, how different is life this year than last year? And I certainly, I wasn't complaining. I was enjoying every moment of it, but it was a lot. It's a
Right.
lot. It's a lot. And people don't see that part and they think it's fun.
Yeah.
But at the end of that red carpet, you are ready to just collapse. Just
Right. And not and not to mention the pressure of having
right.
to to be
Yes.
what it's expected of you.
Right.
Now you're all dressed up, you're ready, all the work has been done, but now the whole event starts, and now you're in the middle of it, and
Right.
it's like you want it to go well, and it's just, yeah. So
You have to be
that's
on. You just have to be on because from the moment you step out of your car or the elevator or wherever it is, once you set foot, once you connect with that publicist and you're on that red carpet, you are on for the rest of the night. You have everybody's looking at you, all the press, all your people are there, and then all of a sudden you're surrounded by fans, people that you don't even know that are pulling and tugging at you and over here and wanting autographs and can you do this and sign this and a selfie, and now it's selfies as well, and it's
right.
you have to be, and
You got to keep that.
I mean, yeah, and and I've been around celebrities where sometimes I guess maybe it's just too much for them and they can't keep it up, and there may be a moment of irritation or they may snap
Yeah,
at somebody, and when you've been on the other side, you get it because it's
you
it's not an
understand it.
easy job to do. It's not easy,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah, because I think a lot of people that are fans don't, they feel they know you through the characters,
Yeah,
and so they feel they know you, the
right,
person, the performer,
yeah,
and I think that gives them a sense of confidence, or they're comfortable treating you like a friend.
mm,
And to the person that's constantly getting that from strangers, it's got to be a tremendous amount of stress to not want to snap, because I'm sure that you work that hard to make a product. Nobody wants to snap at the fans that are out there supporting the product,
right.
but
And the
it must.
fans feel that you owe them something because they
Right.
feel like they know you so well, and
Right.
because they support you in
Right.
whatever way, in time and money, and
Right.
they feel like, wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
I
a
heard J- yeah, exactly. I heard Jerry Seinfeld say something which is interesting. He's kind of like a more of an honorary kind of guy. He's kind of crabby sometimes, but he was saying about that. Um, and there was a parking spot that somebody had taken, and the guy in the car saw him driving in, and he had just taken Jerry Seinfeld's spot, and the guy saw it was Jerry Seinfeld, so the guy backed up and said, "Oh, you can take it, you can take the spot." And so Jerry was like, "Oh, thanks," and he just pulled in and took the guy's spot.
wow,
And then he laughed about it, and the guy felt that he owed me something because I made him laugh for so many years.
wow,
And he said it in a way that was, of course, in Jerry Seinfeld tone, who are these people? More like comedic and very funny. But
yeah,
at the same, he made a good point. You
yeah,
spend years, he spent 9 years on this show, one of the most successful shows ever. And this guy appreciated his work so much that he said, "Here, take my parking spot," because he did spend. So I thought that was a very interesting take on it from
yeah,
the point of view of the celebrity.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
wow, right.
let's talk about, yeah, let's talk about Child's Play.
Hmm.
Um, what was that experience like? I mean, that must have been a trip. It certainly is not Child's Play, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, 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 no. Well, do you have a specific question or
Well, I mean, when you're on a set like that, there's always and you've been on big sets before, right? You were in the Terminal, right, with
Tom?
Tom Hanks. That must have been a pretty big set.
Huge.
um,
Oh my God.
yeah, I
Steven
can't even
Spielberg
imagine.
directed that. That was
Yeah,
an amazing experience too.
yeah. So when you're on a set like that, I guess you can actually, I'll phrase a question just on overall on these experiences. When
Okay.
you're on such a large set like that, what's the attitude that you take on on a set like that? Do you keep consistent on every set, or does that kind of change because now you have a little bit more, I don't know, maybe pressure, or what's your take on that? Like, what's your approach to it? What's your method? What's your technique?
I
What's
don't.
your process?
Yeah, it's not different. It's not different for any job that I'm on.
Good.
Because sometimes you, at any level of your career, you may work with friends. You may collaborate with some friends and say, hey, let's just do this little web series. Let's do I've been a producer of one myself. So I know what it's like on the other side. And, or let's, maybe it's a theater, which doesn't pay a whole lot of money here in LA. My approach is always the same. I bring my A game all the time. I mean, I don't know why anybody wouldn't.
Well, that's why I bring up that question, because I've been on film sets many times, and you can see the starstruck. They're not even starstruck for the stars; they're set struck. They're just the fact that they're the actors. Yeah.
Oh, please believe that I have been that.
Right.
Oh my God! When I worked on the one that comes to mind first and foremost is I can't think of the name of it. The Backup Plan with Jennifer Lopez. Okay. I had to keep going. Stop staring. Stop staring. Stop. You're supposed to be speaking now. Say your line. Say your line.
I probably would be doing the same thing.
Oh my gosh, flawless. Absolutely flawless. And I'm the kind of person on set where I come totally prepared. So I'm not usually freaking out about what my role is. I know why I'm there. I know what I'm supposed to do. But I also like to watch what everybody else is doing. I'm not always if you don't see me, it's probably because I'm nervous. Like I may not know my lines as well as I'd like to. So I'm probably in my dressing room doing my lines, or I'm tired and I just want to be quiet, or maybe take a nap. I know I have a long time before my next scene or whatever, and I may just be in my trailer or dressing room taking a nap, or just being quiet, or making a phone call, or whatever it is. But I love being on set because I want to see what everybody's doing. And I know how to not be in the way. That's one of my biggest fears, is like being in the way. I don't want to be in the way, but I know how not to. And you have so many people when you're an actor, whenever you set foot on a set, they're like, what do you need? Do you need anything? Can I get you anything? And then they start messing with you because you're there. And it's just like, no, I just want to sit here and watch. I just want to. I don't necessarily, you can't talk, obviously, if there's shooting going on, but, I just like to see, I want to know what everybody's job is. I'm friends with people in every department. I'm just curious about what goes into the whole thing.
Yeah.
My approach is not any different. I don't care. I never even considered big set, small set. I mean, yes, I understand what you're saying. I know the difference between, I would simply, it's a matter of budget, actually. It's like a big set means you have more money. So you can hire paid actors and have more fancy stuff, bells and whistles. But the process is really not any different. Right. And there have been some sets on the other side where I've had to bite my tongue and just go, just do your job. You're not on the set of the terminal right now. Just keep your mouth shut, do what you're asked to do, and go home. I don't ever have an attitude like, oh my God, these people don't know what they're doing. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I will never be that actor. And if I have to anybody, I apologize, but I don't think I've ever done that. I really check myself. But there are moments where you just like, and sometimes you go into the project knowing, but for me, if I've made the commitment, I'm not going to be that person that you'll never want to work with again.
Right. That's I was going to get to that, because that isn't, the industry, people think it's a big industry, but it's not really a big industry. Word gets around really fast
True.
if someone is on set and is trouble or
Yeah.
it's just difficult to work with.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an important thing. But you seem to just make it about the work, and I think that's like why you're successful, because when you really just come with the work, everything else doesn't matter.
Right.
Expensive set, but it doesn't matter. Your work is your work. It's actually on point. So when you get a script or a project, something lands on your desk, is there something specific that you look for right away that you say, okay, I'm interested, I'm not interested? How do you make that decision?
I just read it, because obviously you don't know anything about it. My agents usually have read scripts that they send me as well. And occasionally they might have a comment like, oh, this is so good, or this is a sweet story, oh, I love this story. They always, of course, tell you who's attached to the project, which might make you a little bit more interested, but I read the script first for the whole story. I don't just read my sides first. I read the whole thing to see where I then fit in. And I'm not really looking for anything important. I shouldn't say important. In particular, I'm not looking for anything. But if there's something that's like kind of like, it'll be clear to me. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I should mention the name of it. But there's a project that I did recently. When I read that, notice I said I did recently.
Right.
And
So you did
recently, but when I first read the script, I said, "Oh, I'm not so sure I'm right for this project." I don't know, did I tell them, or I felt it? And then sometimes I'll go for the audition, which is, I don't know if it's always the smartest thing to do, because if you show up, you're saying you're interested. So now if you get hired, what are you going to do? Say, never mind. No, I don't like it. Well, then what
never mind.
you for? But there is a project that I did recently that I almost passed on. But when I saw the names, this is so shallow, attached to the project, I thought, maybe I should rethink this. And I did, and I got the role. And even shooting was one of those moments where, and the money wasn't the object. It was just kind of like, I'm just going to do what they tell me to do. I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm here now. And and the show did extremely well, and will be coming back for another season.
Nice.
So you never know. You never know. And it's still, even watching it, I look and I go, well, I can't believe I'm a part of this project, because it's not necessarily a show that I might watch. But they did a great job, and it is good, and it's popular, and the person already had a following, a huge following that has been very loyal, and now they have even more fans. And I admire the creator of the show and the star of the show, because of his intellect and his business savvy. He really knows this is show business, right? And he got it down, and he has surrounded himself with the absolute right people. Okay, and then there is one a long time ago, we all know the film Soul Plane. You know that film, Soul Plane?
I don't think I've actually seen that one. Soul Plane.
Good, don't even bother, please. But
now I'm definitely gonna watch that. Hold on. Soul Plane.
You won't watch it for long. I'll tell you. You can check it out, but you will not be watching for long. I do think I remember auditioning, but I was just like, I can't do this. I feel like I remember there was I can't for some reason. I know I never shot it. I don't know if I was cast and then turned it down. And then the role that I would have had, I don't even think was even in the film. I don't remember seeing this character. So, but I was just like, and it's really, that was a good move. That was a
Yeah.
good move because it's.
You know what's weird? Like there, no one, I don't think anyway, sets out to make a bad film, right? I
Right,
don't think it's anybody's intention, right? Nobody said, let's go make a bad film.
right,
No, they want to make a good film, you know.
right.
But sometimes things just fall apart, and it does. And I've seen it happen with even A-listers, you know, in
Yes,
films where they just something happened where they just missed the ball on this one,
right,
and it's so interesting when that happens. It just shows you how there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle of actually producing something that's, you know, high quality and good, and it's going to entertain. It's not just having a great director or a great actor
right.
or even a
Oh,
great cast. It's
sometimes
yeah, it's just a lot of different elements in there.
it
You
could go
know,
the
have
other
you
way.
ever played?
Too. It could go the other way where a movie becomes a hit and everyone's
Right,
just like, what? Like
right.
that, we just wanted to
Well,
tell our story, you know?
right. Well, it reminds me of Will Ferrell when he did Elf. He
Oh,
got the script and he was like, "I'm not going to do this," and they said, "You should do it." He did it, and he remembers being on set dressed like the elf and thinking, "Here's the end of my career." You know,
ah,
he said, "This is it. I'm done." You know, and
yeah,
after this, and turned out to be a huge Christmas classic. Now, you know,
yeah.
really funny film.
You
So you
never
just
know.
never know.
Right.
Is there ever a is there a character that you've played that you've wished would have just kept going? Like you feel like, oh, I could play this character forever.
Oh gosh, probably a number of them. I guess I always have to kind of start. Well, I was on a series, which is a dream of mine and many actors to become a series regular. And
Mhm.
so the show and the job of a series regular is
Right.
something that I could do forever. I
Mm.
really pray that I have an opportunity to have that job again for a longer amount of time. And it
Mm.
was a series regular on a multi-camera show, so it was comedy, which I love, and then you have the audience element once a week, which is like theater, which I love. And for me,
Oh,
and the hours are great. The people I worked with were great. The show just didn't get another season, but
mm.
I would be fine doing that for the rest
Yeah.
of my life.
Yeah. The series they've changed so differently, like that type of three camera series, it seems like it's very popular on Disney for
Mm,
some, like for some, maybe some kid shows. I think they still use a three camera live audience, or maybe not even a live audience. Maybe they might have canned laugh, but
mm.
um the do you think we're going to have a renaissance of that type of show again, where you had Friends and Seinfeld, where they seem to have been the last group of shows that were kind of in front of a live audience? I know they still make them, but they haven't really, you know, Everyone Loves Raymond, those
Mhm.
kinds
Blue
of shows.
Bloods, and there's Family Reunion that's happening. I just did a show called Broke with Paulie Perrette. That was multicam with a live studio audience. I know they're out there. It's really hard to tell right now, though, John, because we don't know the
Yeah,
direction of anything at this
yeah,
moment. And
yeah,
how long this is going to last, and who's still going to be here, and how we're going to do things. So I really think that the entire industry is going to change, and will it ever go back to the way it was? I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know.
yeah. Well,
So
let's talk about that a little bit, because it's been such a devastating blow for so many artists and performers. I mean, for just everybody, it's the whole planet. But
uh,
um, you know, one of my takes is that I feel that there's a lot of content right now that people are at home writing, putting together. Because I feel that Netflix, and I've said this before on this show many times, but I feel that Netflix and Amazon and all Hulu and all the streaming
mm,
services have been depleted of so much content because people are home and everybody's binge watching, and you
yeah,
know, there's just a lot. new blood is needed. So what I think is happening is probably a lot of people are actually at home getting ready to start filling up the tank again on those networks. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for a lot of performers.
Yeah.
I also think, and I don't know what you feel about this, but a lot of independent artists are going to get a chance to present their material where in the past they might not have gotten that ability to present it to a Netflix or to an Amazon, because they are starting to look more at people. They're starting to like say, okay, I need to start paying more attention because we need to start filling up Netflix again. We can't keep showing the same shows over and over again.
Right.
And so what's your take on that? What do you think? I mean, you're in the thick of things, so do you think that that's going to be well, what's your take on it, and how have you been through this whole situation?
Again, I don't know. None of us really know, but I do know that writers are probably having a field day right now, because that's one thing that they don't have to stop doing.
Right.
Writers are writing on their own, like you said, independent, or whether if they were in a writer's room when we were shut down. I know there's been virtual writers' rooms happening. I'm sure there's a lot of things that are being rewritten, because whatever path they thought they were going on up until March 13th, the stories are going to change. That I believe. The way the content is going to change to match the times. And it's going to also change because of the amount of people that will be allowed on set safely to be able to work with each other. The word is that there's not going to be huge crowd scenes. I don't know if they're going to CGI people. Is it CGI? CGT?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. That sounds weird. I just made that up just now. It sounds weird. But you know what I'm saying? Like, the structure is going to change. The way we move around the studio is going to change. Where we shoot is going to change. Some cities are open, others are not. They're talking about possibly quarantining casts in a hotel together for a project. A lot of things are going to change. There's a lot. So the writers are busy, and voiceover, that field is booming right now. Audiobooks, animation is still happening, because you don't need people, right?
Yeah.
And you need the voices, but now you can record the voices from your home.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to go to a studio. So that gaming voices, all of that. So if you're in voiceovers, or want to get in voiceovers, or have an agent like I do, it's important to have the proper equipment and to be connected to the studio so that you can actually record from home. So as far as I forgot your question, but I think I kind of answered it.
No, you did absolutely. I think voiceovers are actually going to be certainly. I mean, that's been kind of like, it never really stopped, really. I mean, once this whole thing, it just kept going, and then it just kind of got bigger.
Right.
I have a friend named Jim Meskimen, who's a voiceover actor in LA, and he's been pretty working. He's been working pretty good. No, it's fine. It's good. You're good.
That's softer. That's a little softer.
There you go.
Learning all of these things now that I have to be at home, and I have to do the job of 55 other people that used to take care of me all the time.
Right.
I'm noticing all these things, like I looked at myself just now, and I was like, oh no. We're gonna soften that a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because a lot of performers that have been out there, like you said, there are people that do certain things, and now you're home, you have to kind of do things on your, figure things out.
Yeah.
You've done a great job, because you even told me about this platform that I'm on right now. You remember that?
Yes, that's right.
I was using Zoom for a while, and and you mentioned this, and I remember you were StreamYard, Yardstream. I wrote it down, and I looked it up, and we had that conversation. I believe it was on a Sunday,
Uh-huh.
I signed up that day, and the next day I was on StreamYard with my first guest.
The next,
So I
yeah,
yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
yeah, you
And
look great too. I like it. My friend Bernie, I have to give a shout out to my friend Bernie
yeah,
Espinosa. I don't know if he's here. Is anybody here? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Anyway,
yeah, but
I don't want to. I don't want to
there
know.
are a lot of people are watching.
Okay, good. But Bernie was the one that told me about it because he thought that maybe it would be valuable for me, especially I think we were thinking for Ask a Stage Goddess. He thought
Right.
I
Okay.
just don't ever sit still long enough. I do my Thursday lives, and I don't have a plan all the time. I just kind of show up on Thursday, and lately I've been hula hooping, and sometimes I'll do
Right.
a Spanish lesson or the 2 weeks ago I had a meltdown about everything that's been happening, with
Mm,
the looting and rioting and death and
yeah.
racism. But we're not talking. I don't want to go there today. This is going to be light.
Okay.
It's going to be. I don't know. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It looks good. I like it. Maybe I'll do it at some point.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I've gotten
Maybe
pretty
I'll
much into it.
graduate.
I've even spoken to the yeah. I've even spoken to the founders, the actual developers. I've chatted with them actually, and so that's been fun. They're really, really bunch of good guys over there. So it's a great platform. So we do have a couple of let me see some I'll just throw some stuff. I think Sean was mentioning much fabled well, Plan B when we were talking about Plan B.
The much
Uh,
fabled. Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Ron.
yeah. And he says I've heard many stories of cast chemistry and its effect on the final quality of a production. Any stories from your experiences on the topic of good bad cast chemistry? Oh boy.
Ooh. Oh,
I
wow.
know you can't give names.
Ouch. No, I will not. But if I read and heard you right, Sean, I'm probably going to get emotional because I think it means everything. If you have good cast chemistry, I mean, I can't say it can make or break a show because I have heard some stories of shows, long running successful shows where lead characters, actors, actresses, people hate each other.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Absolutely
Crazy.
hate each other. And you
Wow.
would never know it. So I
Wow.
guess, kudos to the good actors out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I can tell you in my experience, I did have an experience where I thought when you get your dream job, this happened to me in theater and it also happened to me in television. I thought when you got your dream job, and of course it's a dream, so we've made up what the whole experience is going to look and feel like before we get there, right?
Mhm.
I have been disappointed a couple of times where it was just a nightmare. My castmates. I've never had a hard. Well, I've had some directors that weren't that great, but the castmates, when you have to work so closely together and create these believable relationships,
Mm.
and if there's any tension, it makes your job that much harder. But what
Mm.
I've learned to do is take whatever that real thing is that's happening and use it as my character. Because at the end of the day, I don't have to go home with this person. At
Right.
the end of the scene, I don't even have to sit and have craft service with this person. I can go to my dressing room, thank God, and
Right.
and chill for a second. Whatever I need to do, if I need to call somebody, if I need to play some music, if I need to pray, if I whatever it is, shake it off and get back out there and go to work. I guess it's like a boxer going to the corner.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you shake it off and
Yeah.
you
Get
together
some
and you
water. Throw some water on your
get some
face.
water
Put some
and you get back in
put
the
some
ring.
cold press on the bruises. You're good to go.
Yes, yes.
Oh
So
man.
I don't know if there's a direct correlation to the chemistry and the success of the show, but it can be for me,
Yeah.
in the peaceful type of person that doesn't really like a lot of tension. And, they talk about fight or flight. And I'm the one usually to fly. But
Right.
in some instances you can't. You're there and you got to do what you got to do,
Yeah.
So,
And it's kind of amazing that you see a successful show have people that really just don't like each other for so long. It's got to be a really miserable place to go to because I mean, unless you're so closed off to like I don't know, you have some kind of a ability to shut things down and you go into your scene but it seems like it would just be a really miserable place to be for a
yeah.
long period of time, you know.
I have
Um
done a couple of movie sets where the entire set was miserable. Like every
oh,
department was. Of course, I would never mention the recently, unfortunately, and many years ago, the entire. And I'm not going to point fingers to where it comes from, but they say it comes from the top, whatever that means. I
pretty
don't know.
much.
The top could be the director, the top could be the producer, whoever, but it starts somewhere and it filters down.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
been to, I can probably more, but there are two that I'm well aware of because I was
Mm,
there longer and maybe had a larger role in the project, so I felt it more. Um,
yeah.
it was miserable. Like everybody was miserable.
Jeez.
Everybody was miserable. And when you show up as a guest and you're all like, "Hey, I'm ready to," oh, all right.
You're like,
I'll just be over here. Just call me when you're ready for my,
I'm
it's just like,
just
but
waiting for that to wrap.
yes, but you learn to assess these things through, I've been in the business a long time, as you know, and I've done a lot of jobs, and you kind of learn how to pick up on it as soon as you get there. And then you're like, oh, okay. But, and here's the thing, as a guest, you can't really talk to anybody about it. What are you going to do? You can't complain. You shouldn't be
Right.
asking a lot of questions. You really don't want to get involved.
No,
You
you
know,
gotta just
so
do your
you
thing and
do your shit and go.
right.
Get out of there. Get that check.
That's it. Yeah. Um, let's talk a little bit to the young people if you don't mind. One
Yeah.
of the things I always like doing is I like being from the South Bronx, talking to a lot of young people, young artists.
You know I
Um,
lived at 165th and 3rd, right? Did we talk about that?
oh, we did in
Oh,
165th
cool.
and I think we did talk
163rd
about that. Yeah.
Avenue.
Oh,
You remember that?
really?
Yeah, when I was
Yeah.
from birth till or 1 or 2 till about 5 or 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Wow.
to bond with you with the Bronx
We
thing.
have that. Now we got more. We're bonded even closer.
You came close.
Um,
But go ahead.
yeah, I was in the South Bronx in Hunts Point area. And so I go back there, a couple of organizations that I work with, and then I go back and just kind of try to help young people, navigate through certain environments. Although the environment there now is a lot different than it was when I was growing up. It was a lot worse growing up with the fires and all that. But what's something that you can tell a young artist? They're coming from different backgrounds, obviously, so everyone is different. We're not all cut from, we're all different.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's actually just getting started in the industry and is just taking that first step and they're terrified?
Wow. Hmm.
There are a
Well,
lot of them out there.
I think that I would tell them to find somebody that they could trust, that could be a guide for them, that could be a mentor, to get
Yeah.
involved in and before that happens, they may want to get involved in a theater group or some kind of club if there's something in their school or their church or their community that they can get involved with where there'll be other people like them doing the same thing. Then they won't be so terrified, you know
Right.
because whenever you're afraid of something, it's usually the unknown. And
Mhm.
then once you get more familiar with it, or you learn how to do it, or you get involved in the actual doing of it, then the fear is gone. Yeah, something
Right.
there may be something else that you'll be afraid of along the line.
Right.
That's just life. But just to find a cushion, like don't try to do it by yourself. You don't have to do it by yourself. And then
Yeah.
when you get around other people that are already doing it or also learning with you, then that
Mhm.
fear will go away.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say that. I always say find someone that you trust that you can actually bounce ideas off or what your dreams are, and
Yes,
you're not afraid to actually say something that may be grand, but you feel
yes,
confident enough that you can tell that to this person. Always find somebody like that. And I always say also, be prepared for anything.
right.
Just be aware that anything could happen at any time, and you should always remain in the present.
Yeah,
Remain in the present time moment, so you can be aware of things that are happening, and you can take advantage of
yeah,
those opportunities that sometimes they land on you and you don't even realize it.
right.
My first audition ever was fantastic, and it was a nightmare at the same time. It was
Wow.
I went in for this audition, and I'm sitting in the room waiting, and it's my first one. I'm terrified. My acting coach was like
How
pushing me,
old
and
are you? How old?
oh, I got into acting very, very late in life. I was like 37
Okay,
or
I'm just
something.
curious. I'm just curious. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I was already a man, and I was a musician. I'd played in band, recorded albums, and did all that. And
Okay.
this was just another thing that I wanted to try out. And I'm sitting in the room waiting, terrified, and there's this guy sitting next to me, and he's like, I'm very short. He's like 8 feet tall, blonde hair, blue eyed. He's sitting next to me, right? And I'm sitting there, and so the director comes out, and or one of the casting people comes out, and they say, okay, so we're gonna first see you. We're gonna first see the other guy, the big tall guy, and then
Mhm.
John, we're gonna come to you. Okay,
Okay.
and I was like, all right, no problem. So he goes back in, and then the big tall guy decides to go to the bathroom at that point, right? So he
Wow.
gets up and he goes to the bathroom. So the guy comes out like 2 minutes later. He's like, "Oh, where is he?" And he goes, "Oh," I said, "Oh, he went to the bathroom." So he's, "All right, well then why don't you just come in, right?" So now I'm like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna have a few more
Right.
minutes of."
Yeah.
So I walk in, and usual setup, right? People, the director, and all everybody's sitting there, and the guy had the headshot of the tall guy.
Mm.
So I because this is what I'm thinking about, being in the moment and being in present time. Even though I was nervous as hell, I
Yes.
stayed in the moment, and I knew he had the headshot of the other guy. He thought that guy was going to come in.
Yes.
So when I walked in and he sees me, he goes, "Oh." He kind of looks at the headshot, and he looks at me, and I said, "Yeah, I'm a lot taller on paper." You know,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and it just came to me, and I said it, and the whole room broke up laughing, and I took a breath, and I did an audition, and the director, when I left, said, that was because he gave me a cold read. And
Oh,
on top of reading my lines, he said, "Oh, would you mind reading this?"
okay.
So now I'm reading a cold line, and it was in an accent. He wanted an accent.
Oh my God.
So all this stuff is thrown in, because on my resume it was like it had an accent thing.
What
So now
accent?
it was an Indian accent.
Oh,
Now,
did
so
you
like, oh my god.
do it
Well,
back?
yeah, I was like, oh my god, please, I don't know what to say. So so I get this audition. So I get this thing, and I'm supposed to be collecting rent. I run my rent. I do not care. I want you to pay my rent right now. So I go into this whole spiel with this cold read thing, and the director at the end said, that's one of the best cold reads I've ever heard.
Wow.
And I said, "Oh, thank you so much." And I know not to stay long, because that's another mistake that people make. I was like, "Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it." And I got the hell out of there. And when I was at the elevator, I remember thinking, "Wow." I was like, "What an accomplishment I did, having to, because it's such a scary, scary thing.
Right.
You just don't know what to expect." But I always remembered, stay in the present,
Yeah.
stay in those moments, and don't lose sight, because you're nervous and you start thinking about all the other things, or you're thinking of being criticized or judged or whatever, because
Right.
that's what actors do, right? We
Yeah.
get judged for a living,
Yes.
right, by casting people. That's
Sure.
the job.
Right.
So that's
Right.
one of the advice that I give, and I tell that story because and I ended up that project actually ended up not even happening. It was like something
Oh
happened
wow.
with the project, but the experience gave me so much confidence,
Yeah.
that I was able to go in, and the next ones after that were a piece of But it was because of that thing. I was confident, you know. So anyway, that was my little
That's nice. It's very good. It takes a minute. I mean, auditioning is a muscle. You know, I remember when I first used to audition. I still do. When I first started auditioning, it was about that audition. That 1 5-minute thing was my whole day. It would be
right.
before emails and cell phones and all the stuff. You would just go home and just like look at the phone, just like waiting. And it's just like, no, you just do it and go shopping, go forget about it. You got to just, that is your moment to perform. Go in there, make your choices, do the best you can, and leave it alone and go on with the day. And I know it's not easy in the beginning because you don't understand. You do enough of them, you'll get it. And the other thing I was going to say was, like, everyone's like, oh my God, how do you deal with the rejection? How do you deal with the rejection? I'm like, you know what? It's not, and I had to learn this. I never did like the word rejection, and I never liked the word competition, but they are a part of the industry, or the part of the acting world for some people. But my voiceover agent's husband said it best. They didn't reject you. They just chose someone else.
Right. That's it.
Because you can't ever book every job. No one has. And it's not going to happen. That's it. So the thing is to get as many auditions as you can. And then sometimes you get so used to like not hearing anything when you get the job. You'll be like, what? You're kidding. What was that for? What was that again? And then you realize sometimes, to your chagrin, you're like, oh shit, now I gotta recreate that over and over and over and over again. Okay, here we go.
Auditioning is so strange, isn't it? Because there was this great documentary. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the documentary itself was called "That Guy That Was in That Thing."
Oh, I want to see it now.
That's the name of the documentary, and it was
you wrote down Soul Plane. Oh, I can just watch this over.
Yeah, I'll send it to you also. Okay. And the documentary, it took like, I think it was 5 or 6 actors that we've seen like a bunch of times in different things, but nobody ever can say that's this guy, that's his name,
Right.
And they interviewed all of them, and it was really great because there was one guy who talked about auditioning, and he said, you can go into an audition one day and it'll be great because you reminded the director of like his brother, or you can go in that same day and have a bad day because you reminded the director of his brother. You see, you just don't know what that person is going to, so it's an interesting exercise.
Yeah.
Just auditioning itself. I'll go on auditions that I know early on, not now, I have an agent now, but back before I knew that I wasn't good for this, but I'm going to show up to this open casting and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And I show up and, it's ridiculous. I'm sitting in a room with like all these model looking guys and I'm sitting there like Woody Allen looking, and I go in and I get to experience meeting a few people, and then I go home and I know I didn't get it, but at least I got out and I got to experience that. So I think it's important to just go out and, like you said, it is a muscle. You have to keep working at it until you can flex it decently.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many auditions I've had when I've been the only person in the room that looked like me, and I don't go in, I don't look around the room and go, I mean, I've had so many actresses, like with an attitude, like, well, what they call me in for, and I'm like, well, I think maybe because they think you might be right for this. Like, why are you going to give the job away before you even audition or then why did you show up then,
That's like, confidence, isn't it?
Huh?
It's insecurity.
I guess so. See, I never looked at it that way, but I like it when I look around the room and I'm the only one that looks like me for whatever reason, age, color, size. Well, it could be any number of things, but I'm going to be the different one. I'm going to be the one they remember because it's not the same. They're not seeing the same. You have to realize how many people they see for one particular role all day long, over and over, the same thing. And I've been on the other side of the casting table, and they all blend in after a while. And then you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, what about that skinny girl? What about the one? What about the one? Wasn't there one that had red hair? You know, whatever that made you different.
Made you different, yeah.
Will stay in their minds. Hopefully, hopefully, unless you were horrible, then you'll be like that redhead, that black girl.
Well, you're definitely going to stay in my mind, and you're definitely going to stay in the mind of all our viewers here because you're so awesome, and you have so much positive attitude, not just towards the industry. And it's always great to speak to somebody that's successful and it's in the industry and it's doing it and it's not bad mouthing the industry, because you get so many people just saying, oh, Hollywood and all this stuff. And, you know, Hollywood has had a rough couple of years for a lot of different reasons. But I think people went up there are really want to work and they want to create good products, you know, and I think that's really the key thing, you know.
And like I said earlier, things are going to change, and that with the pandemic, but also now with all of that's happening because of the awful death of George Floyd. There's going to be different stories being told and different ways of doing things and approaching, and the look of diversity, I think, is going to change. I mean, it's this change. This is a whole new. It's a renaissance. It is all new. It's all new.
It is. I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm also saddened by the reasons why we got there. Yeah. But I am excited about the future. I think it's going to be really uplifting, and I think the stories are going to be uplifting. I think a lot of people have realized how fragile life is. And they're going to write stories about hope and forgiveness and all these things that we've all experienced, and isolation. And the stories are going to be filled with. They're going to be different. They're going to be completely different. It's an exciting time, and I'm very, very grateful that you're there. Thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you? I have your website up there, which is carleaseburke.com. You're also on social media.
That's actually going to be launching really soon. I'm very close to launching a new one, so that's under construction. But there's information there, so the link will work. You don't need the www. I guess you don't need that. But I am Carlease Burke everywhere. My two favorite platforms are Facebook and Instagram. I've been loving Instagram lately. I like Facebook. I do a Thursday live. I do have an actor page, but I haven't really figured out how to really use it. And I'm trying to use YouTube more, create something. There are some things up on Carlease Burke channel on YouTube. But I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm no John Henry Soto, y'all. I am no John Henry Soto, but you know, we're working on it. But Instagram for sure, Facebook, but everywhere, Carlease Burke. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know John Henry Soto, so I will definitely help you with whatever you need on those platforms. Absolutely. Carlease, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you so much. Hang on one second while I close out the show. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you come back again very, very soon.
And we're gonna keep in touch. So.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. We're probably gonna talk tomorrow.
Yes, please.
Or maybe later on today. Absolutely. Thank you, Carlease.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
All right. Oh man, that was awesome. I am so blessed to get the opportunity to do this. I don't think people really understand how much I really appreciate having these conversations with these amazing individuals from so many different industries. For me, it's just a blessing, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to anyone that watches. Please, if you're interested in this, you know, like the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and hit the little bell. You can also follow me on Instagram, johnhenrysoto@gmail.com. If anybody's interested in actually getting any type of help, you can also email me right here at johnhenrysoto@gmail.com. I would be more than happy to sit with you and help you with whatever you need. And that is all. My final thoughts for today are basically this. You know, artists really are so important in the world. And whenever you see anything happen in the world that's troublesome, the artist always comes through, and the artist always injects the spirit of life into the planet and really helps people elevate. And so this is what I think is important, that we actually support our artists, support those that are around you creating beautiful things, because it really is important. So with that said, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I will see you all again on Monday night. I have Yvonne Davenport, and we're going to talk about homeschooling and a bunch of other wonderful topics that she'll bring to the table. So thank you all so much. God bless you. And as always,